And because they have such a big surface area, there should be no issues for the teams about getting up on the foils, but it will be an issue kind of keeping that control. There will also be a drag year, which means the acceleration is going to be slower, so teams will need to take that into account for the pre-start and that first leg.
Under 90 seconds to go before the start of race number 1. Again, we are scheduled for 3 fleet races, condensed schedule today, and then only the top teams will race in that event final. Stevie, 1:15 now to go, and I gotta think the teams, everyone's feeling a little sporty wanting to get after this first race.
Well, we're just so excited to be back up. Did you hear Lisa down there? I mean, she is absolutely frothing with excitement about getting racing. 1:05. The box is a little bigger for the start today. Teams are already on that run in here.
1 minute to go now before the start of race number 1 here in New Zealand.
It's just worth drawing your eye to the start line, the red line, left-hand side of screen, and that blue triangle coming off the start. That's the theoretical perfect place to start. Should give you the best compromise of distance versus speed to Mark 1. All the crews know that, though. So really the priority is hitting that line when the clock goes 0 at full place, and the manoeuvring now is crucial. Germany have chosen to cut back early. Their starting was incredible. Here we go. It's heightened on board. It's tight in the middle. Oh, there could be a collision in the middle of the line there. Oh, my word. Rockwool, Denmark and Canada. Rockwool, Denmark had to keep clear. Oh, I don't know what happened there. Big moment. Anyway, back to the boats. Australia, bottom of line, well positioned. New Zealand, top of line. The two big guns firing here with 15 seconds to go. New Zealand are going to be fast and loose at the top of line. Australia, how's their timing going to be? With Giles Scott coming through. 6 seconds to go. New Zealand winded up at the top of the line. France winded up at the bottom of the line. Watch for its turn. White. We go. New Zealand absolutely flat out at the top of the line. They're going to struggle to control the boat with those big foils from here. France on the inside should lead at Mark 1, but it's going to be a sprint.
Quentin Delapierre and France very fast off the line as they approach mark number 1, and we are off and racing here in New Zealand.
Oh, Switzerland have managed to find a way through there. Nathan Outridge's first racing on the tiller of the Swiss boat. Great job. Australia in the pack. New Zealand on the outside of the pivot there. They're going to tactically struggle, and Delapierre, well, he's one of the pre-race favourites in Big Breeze, and he's led the fleet away. Okay, New Zealand need to get into that boundary for protection. All the boats start to turn, but they've got to keep clear of Australia there on board. Canada, big contact. What, that was unthinkable there. They weren't in the boundary. I don't know that Canada can turn in front. That's a massive incident there. Oh my
major
word.
damage.
Major damage to the Australian boat. That's a day ender potentially there. I don't know what they've caught. Have they caught something in the water? France lead away to the bottom mark. They're going to turn left, trying to keep things simple. Great Britain turn back on the right of way here. France, Switzerland, New Zealand up to 4th.
So we've got confirmation that the Australian team hit that mark. That's what we saw turned upside down underneath the boat.
So the safety crew on the scene, they'll attend to Australia. Remember, they are the overall leaders on the season with an 8-point lead over New Zealand. But right now in race number 1, it is France, Switzerland, Emirates GBR, and New Zealand, your top 4.
It's a big moment there because really Canada had to keep clear of Australia, and Canada have turned at the mark. They're slow. Oh, it's a big incident. We're going to have to get the umpire's take on that because that seemed a busy moment. But the most important fact right now is France out in front, and they're going to try and sail this course as simple as possible. Coming back on board, right-hand side of our screen. Look at this tight moment in there. Oh, huge moment in the pre-start. That's the United States and Canada. Canada needed to keep clear of the United States there. If there was contact, it could be an absolute smorgasbord of penalty points. Here we go, Australia. They were forced to turn away here. They set up for the turn. You can see a sudden turn needed to be made to keep clear of Canada, but he just hooks that mark. Wow, massive contact. Huge contact. We're going to see if we can get the Roos back racing. We'll hear more from them soon, but I think they just, you see here, Canada turn away from New Zealand, but they turn straight into Australia, and Australia have the right of way. Oh, that's unbelievable moment. Unbelievable for the Aussies.
A lot of drama to unpack on the first 2 legs of the first race here on Super Sunday. So back to live racing action. We are on leg 3 of 7, and it's still Quentin Delapierre and the French out in front. Stevie, amidst all the people talking about this race and the conditions, the experts really seem to favor France in these very tricky conditions with this heavy wind.
We've seen it before. Their maneuvers, especially in this breeze, are second to none. We see them entering all their maneuvers with one of the highest entry speeds and also a very high rate of turn, which means they're losing that minimum amount of distance every time they change direction.
And more importantly, Emily, they are only 7 points out of that third and final spot on the podium for the overall. Denmark currently holds it down with 52 points. The French sitting on 45 points, 3 back of Spain, who sit in fourth.
Yeah, it's definitely a very tight leaderboard at the moment, especially now that we've had more incidents today. There are going to be more penalty points on that board, which are definitely going to mix things up. That could be a blessing in disguise as well for Great Britain, who obviously already have -8 points. But if you've got more teams getting penalty points, it kind of helps them a little bit there.
Game changer, though, Stevie, for the Australians, and I don't know how they just obviously didn't see that, or was that just in their blind spot?
Well, yeah, I think just to clarify what happened there, that the Canadians and New Zealand had got into the protection from the boundary zone. They were entitled to turn, despite turning onto what would traditionally be not the right of way. They turned. Australia had to give them room on the boundary, so it is Australia's problem that it happened, and yeah, they're going to have a big job getting back in the race. But yeah, no foul Canada, no foul New Zealand in that situation, just to clear it up.
Nice, guys.
The chatter continues. Voices relatively calm despite the chaos down on the water. It is still France out in front. Nathan Outridge and the Swiss, Stevie, sitting in second place, and Emirates GBR, they are in third.
It was really interesting just there where we saw them drop the board and we saw the bow of Emirates GBR just dip down and kiss the water, and heard on board them just go, whoa! And it's just the adjustment to using these light air boards and finding the correct setting that they need to be dropping them at, because if they're slightly too negative on rake, when they drop that foil, it sucks the hull down, and clearly they're just a little more than expected.
This would be a huge reward, Stevie, if somehow France can get themselves into the event final. They have come so close the last few events, missing out just by a point or two, and here they are taking firm control of this event on race number 1. Remember, we've got 3 fleet races, and then only the top 3 teams will go into the event final later today.
Yeah, I mean, the French have done a nice job in these windy conditions, and they like an open course. The way they like to sail the boat, they sail it pretty fast and free, often sailing a bit more distance, but they just are able to really let it rip, and these are perfect conditions for the French out there at the moment. They're trying to minimise those manoeuvres now, and they're also tending to stay offshore a little bit. There's slightly clearer wind away from the shore, and the French are making the most of sailing in more wind.
The French nearly picture perfect from the get-go, and they are pulling away from the rest of the fleet. We go down to the water. Lisa, what can you see, and did you have a good view of what happened with Australia and Canada?
Yeah, I was actually sitting right on the boundary and saw it all happen. I mean, these marks, they're dark blue, they're hard to see, and it gets super congested after Mark 1. Everyone's trying to execute that first jibe with boundary protection or not. So, you know, I'm surprised there aren't more incidents on that turn normally, and that was a massive impact. They're just dropping their jib now and backing off that mark. But yeah, real impact on that team, and they're going to be gutted because these are really their conditions, and to watch everyone else be able to sail around like this, it'll be really tough for them. But France are just showing us how it's done out here in New Zealand. They're pushing every moment, but they've split the course with France and coming head-to-head now.
And this really changes the dynamic, Stevie and Emily, because Australia is the overall leader after 8 points. But Stevie, you said this could be an event changer for them. They could be done for the day. We saw Emirates GBR get the 8 points docked for the collision on practice day, so it takes them out of it. So really we're looking at 8 teams battling for 3 spots at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, it's you know, the Australians are possibly the only boat in the fleet that can afford a mistake like this. They've got that much of a season lead at the moment, but right out there on the course at the moment, we can see New Zealand are managing to really find the fastest route around this course. They're closing down on the French. They were way back in the pack. They're tending to sail on their own. They're trying to keep their own space, stay out of phase with the other boats would be a priority. And when they next turn the boat here, ladder lines show we're nearly level. When they come back together with the French, they'll have the right of way. Good chance for the Kiwis to take the lead right now.
Yeah, and I can tell you at the moment, the Kiwis have been averaging 57 kilometers an hour of speed around this course, while the French second fastest at 56.
And check this out. If you look at the overall season standings, if New Zealand would go on to win this event, get the 10 points, that would take them to 68 points. The Australians would get 1 point for being here. That would put them at 67.
That's an early if, mate.
67.
That's an early if.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, there's a lead change there. Big gains by the New Zealand crew. They're very much in phase with the wind shifts here. They're minimising distance on this upwind leg well, and yeah, generally got better boat speed. They're well set for gate 5. They're probably going to need to do one more manoeuvre. They'll turn right. France have the right of way as we come into gate 5, but the Kiwis look like they're far enough ahead at the moment.
Very impressive performance here from the Kiwis, who also had the least amount of training time at the start of the day today, as they got a little bit of foil damage when they were on their way out to the racecourse. All sorted before the race started. But
here we go, tight moment here. France have got it wound up. Look at the speed, 62 kilometres an hour. New Zealand have to keep clear. They choose to dip behind. It's going to be neck and neck at this final turn downwind mark here. Right of way at the moment with France in the lead. New Zealand second. There's nothing in that.
Great speeds there as New Zealand touches 80 kilometers an hour, and they split the course. So now it is all on. Who will take the win in race number 1? Gate 5 is complete, and the French now going back and forth with the lead with the Kiwis.
Well, when they come back together, New Zealand are going to have the right of way in terms of they'll be on starboard tack with wind coming over the right-hand side of the boat, but France are going to be on the inside for this final turning mark. It's a big moment here. Kiwis and France. Delapierre's not going away. He's not handing it to the locals.
Leg 6 of 7 on race number 1, and Quentin Delapierre on the left side of your screen. Here comes Peter Burling and the Kiwis, and this will be a tight crossing, as Stevie pointed out, the Kiwis having the right of way.
Yeah, that was a sensible, that's a wise head on young shoulders, Delapierre there. I think he thought about pushing it inside the Kiwis, but a second in this first race is a solid start. Don't get yourself into an incident where you risk losing more places. Kiwis nailed it. There was no mistake on board that New Zealand boat down there. If they don't make a mistake, you just got to continue to make the next right decision. And Delapierre, that was a wise move. Look at the fans, they're going to be loving that.
The black foils bring it home now. It's final 100, 200 meters to go as they will cross the line. The first race of the ITM New Zealand Sail Grand Prix in Christchurch goes the way of the home team. The black foils get the win in race 1. France with a very impressive race. They check in second place, so that's 10 points and 9 points going to the Kiwis and the French. Spain will finish in third, and that's huge.
It's a good work by Spain. Great Britain, good result for Giles Scott. But I tell you what, that was an ominous performance by the Black Foils, because that was not a great start. They hit the line well, but they were a bit out of position, being at the top of the line on the outside of the wheel, coming downwind, and they just sailed the whole way back through the fleet. It was really dominant display by the Black Foils there.
Phil Robertson and the Canadians involved in a lot of drama there on that first race. They come through in 5th place, and it looks like Germany will hold on to 6th.
2, 1, go CBS. Cue on.
So Germany claims 6th, and it looks like Nathan Outteridge, who was sitting in 2nd place for a time being, he will come in 7th.
Oh, we got some confusion here at the finish.
I think the Danes missed it.
I think the Germans and the Swiss have gone the wrong way through the finish there. That motorboat to the top of the screen's the finish line. Switzerland and Germany. Oh, bit of an error here. Big error, in fact. Big error. They've sailed the wrong finish line. USA, they got it right through the gap there. Chaos, of course, you've got to remember back to the beginning. The Australians took out the finish mark.
Yep.
So they've changed it up, put the rib in as the top end of the finish, and I think Germany and Switzerland have made a mistake there.
We will sort out. What we do know is the first 5 teams are through clean. That's New Zealand, France, Spain, Great Britain, and Canada. And there is the situation. That is the league-leading 3-time reigning and defending champion Australians, winners of the last event. Stevie, that is not good.
This is going to have a huge impact on the season scoreboard, let alone the event scoreboard. So with Denmark in 3rd overall, if they don't score points for this event, or score very few points for this event, that could knock them off of that 3rd place position. Equally for Australia, you know, if New Zealand come 1st or 2nd here, they could be tied on the overall leaderboard.
So Australia and Rockwell, Denmark currently sit 1st and 3rd in the season standings after 8 events. And this was the start, Stevie, and there was so much chaos in there. It looks like Canada getting right up close and personal with Denmark. Here it is again.
Yeah, the windward boat must keep clear, and Denmark must get out of the way. I think it basically, I'm surprised the way Denmark are setting their crew up here. There's no one down in that leeward position looking as we come on board. That's the front, the bow of the Danish boat. There'll be water going in through there. That's why they've got to get the boat in. It will be taking on water, but of course great safety measures here, so the boat will be safe, but they'll be keen to get it out of the water as soon as possible. But yeah, mistake on there. They didn't see them, but I just think they could use the crew better in that positioning wise, to actually be able to observe what's around them. It's so chaotic in the pre-start.
Is that similar to what we saw in practice racing between Emirates GBR and Spain?
In my opinion.
We've seen it a few times. I'm definitely in agreement with you, Stevie. A lot of the teams need to start thinking about having a person to leeward in close quarters situations.
2, 1.
Well, the good news is everyone is safe. It is just damage to the boats, and that can be repaired. So Australia, Rockwell, Denmark, first and third in the overall. After 8 events, they are done. Now it is 8 teams battling for 3 spots. And let's remind you that Emirates GBR already down 8 points because of an incident taking place during practice when they collided with the Spanish. So, deep breath. We're set to go. Race number 2, Stevie, down to the final 30 seconds. A little more breathing room for the team.
Yeah, a bit more breathing room. I mean, we didn't have a lot of action yesterday. I feel we've had 3 days worth in the last 12 minutes of racing, but France and Spain, opportunity knocks here. This is a massive moment to try and get back in it. Denmark are up and racing. Have they managed to affix a miracle repair? Well, that would be incredible work by their shore crew. If so, it looks like they're racing to be. 13 seconds to go. New Zealand well positioned. France in the middle of the line a little bit more. It's all about acceleration now. Phil Robertson, the rocket at the bottom of the line on board Canada. How's your timing, Phil Robertson? He winds it up on board Canada. Go! Perfect start, Phil Robertson. Nathan Outridge, perfect start on the Swiss boat, but the Canadians are going to have the fastest angle to Mark 1 on these big foils. They will control things. New Zealand out the back again.
Mark number 1, race number 2, Phil Robertson and the Canadians. They take control of this race with Nathan Outridge and the Swiss on the outside.
Here we go. Talking about boundary there, Phil Robertson. That means he's got to manoeuvre away. As soon as he's within 80 metres of that boundary, he gets protection for those boats on the inside to turn. But for Canada, that's not a worry right now. They are way out in front, perfectly positioned. Great start by Robertson. And in front of the fans, that's a pretty slick manoeuvre. You can hear the voice of Paul Campbell, James there, the wing trimmer, talking to Phil about how he wants to sail the boat. What mode do we want? How fast are we trying to sail the boat? He said we can come down, turn the boat away from the wind if you need to. It's going to make it easier to make this next gate too.
Okay, I'll get Max. Okay, Max now. 2, 1. Here we go.
Gate 2, you hear the voice of Phil Robertson, and Canada with a slick maneuver through there. Switzerland will come through second, and at the last minute, Spain decide to go to the other side of the course with France, Emirates GBR, the USA. They'll come to the left-hand side following the Canadians and the Swiss.
Yeah, that turn up at this bottom mark is a big moment with these foils. They get a lot of lift on the foils all of a sudden as they spin the boat around, and all the boats not quite able to make the easy turn. Tricky for Denmark in 7th, but in last place at the moment, the winners of race 1. What a moment.
We're seeing on that left-hand side of the screen, it's a lot lighter inshore and there's a big shift. We saw as GBR came round the mark with that right-hand turn. They ended up pointing directly at the fans on screen, so that could have been a big loss for them there. We see 22 kilometers an hour of pressure on that shore side, 30 offshore where the Canadians are.
How about the game for the Americans? They have now moved up to the 3rd place with Canada in 1st, the Swiss in 2nd, Nathan Outridge at the wheel now. Let's go down to Lisa Darman. And Lisa, the biggest surprise I think for all of us is seeing Denmark, Nikolai Sested and their team pulling the full Lazarus, rising from the dead. They get in the start box at the very end. What can you tell us about the Danes and how they're able to be out there?
Well, what I can tell you is they're missing the front of their boat. Half of their bow got chopped off in that situation. But the one way that I can think about that hull is not in the water, so it's not taking.
Now, sorry. Apologies, losing Lisa there. We'll get back to her in a second. Stevie, I think what she's talking about is if they're foiling 99% of the time, they don't have to worry about having that front end.
Yeah, no pressure. Rasmus Kostner, the flight controller, on board that for the Danes, so they really need these points if they can get them right now. But it's tight. We're early on in the day here, but of course we're already thinking about a race to the final. The points are already crucial. New Zealand, look, they're off the back of the group, and here's the points.
And here on the bottom left is that race to the final. Canada currently leading the charge with 16 points as it currently stands. Switzerland just on the edge of qualifying at the moment.
How big would that be for Nathan Outridge to come on board at his first event and get them into the final? They currently sit dead last in the overall standings, so we'll see if the Wind Whisperer can work his magic and get them some much-needed points. Right now, we're on leg 3 of 7, race number 2, and it's Emirates, GBR, Canada, Switzerland, France, and Spain, your top 5.
Yeah, and it's a real boat speed course out there today. Nathan likes a shifty course. He's got to keep clear of France here. Bottom right-hand corner of our screen, the Swiss are going to potentially lose out to the French as they come into the top, but it's Great Britain. Giles Scott, first taste of leading in SailGP, must keep clear of Canada. Early manoeuvre, spins away, and most of these boats look like they're going to turn left. Will the Swiss split away from the fleet? Yes, they do. They look for space on board the Swiss boat, but de la Pierre, wow, that French boat's fast today.
And the Swiss are going to have company as...
Oh, big bear away.
Spain comes into view right behind them.
Oh, they got slow on board Switzerland. They were slow into the manoeuvre, then they had to try and turn the boat away. Costly error there. Complex manoeuvre, but they did not execute it well. They got slow, not enough lift on the foils, and they nearly pitched over the front. Oh, big error on board that Swiss boat, and they're now back in the pack as we see Phil Robertson. He's going well, but Diego Botín on board Spain, bottom right-hand corner of our screen. They're back in the race, turns on to the right-of-way tack there, and he's going to be coming back at the fleet with rights.
And GBR currently the fastest boat on the course, 55.9 kilometers an hour average around this race course, with Canada and France still pushing hard behind.
Remember, it's all about accumulating the most points over 3 races. 10 points to the winner, 1 point for last. Canada now on the lead. We saw moments ago Emily doing her projections of who would make the top 3 if it stood right now, but still one more race still to go. Canada has the lead. Emirates GBR in 2nd place with the French in 3rd.
Oh, we just saw a last-minute decision by the British to dip behind the Canadians. We've, of course, got an obstruction. Those channel markers in the course, the boats are not allowed through between the red and the green on the screen that we just saw there, so the teams have all got to avoid that. Giles Scott, last-minute decision. He just got out of the way, but the Canadians look like they've smoothed things down a bit here. They turn right. Great Britain right, France right, and Spain are going to be the first to split away.
Oh,
no,
France.
Last-minute decision, but they're going to open the door for Spain. Spain have the right of way, no problem. Top right of screen, New Zealand have the right of way. Switzerland have got to miss them. Wow, tight moment there. Oh no, love loss, and the Swiss are high on the foils here. They're going to be loose on the mark rounding. Oh, it's getting messy on board that Swiss boat. Look at her go. Oh. Big ease on the wing needed. It's getting fast and loose out on the race course.
Pushing the envelope, Nathan Outridge and the Swiss there, and they bring both holes now down safely into the water, and that was certainly a moment. The Danes now looking to pick up possibly another position, and that just means points in the overall with the damaged boat. Meanwhile, out in front, it is Canada on top, Great Britain, and then Spain and France.
And this is how that race to the final looks at the moment. We have a four-way tie, all on 16 points. Canada, Spain, and France would make it through, as it is the tie-break comes down to the last race. So at the moment, Kiwis are the bottom of that pack in this race. So
and that's because the Kiwis sit in 5th place. But Emily, that's a lot better than they were, 10 minutes ago when they were in 8th and 9th.
Exactly.
Yeah. And look at this again. Look, you see how most of the boats are sailing towards up the screen, and New Zealand are sailing left to right on our screen, and they've just done a very good job. We call that they're getting out of phase. If you can be sailing on their own, they'll be sailing at their own optimal speed. They're making the progress towards that next mark as efficiently as they can, and that's how they're able to gain through. It's clever tactical sailing by Burling and Liv Mackay at the back of that New Zealand boat. They're in it, but they need to overtake another place if they're going to make themselves take the lead in this regatta. But of course, there should be a 3rd race out here today.
Kiwis have got to be licking their chops with an opportunity to really close the gap on the Australians who lead the overall. Remember, the Australians 3-time reigning and defending champions, and the black foils are hunting down more and more points. And right now, they've got France and Spain in their sights here. Leg 5 of 7. They'll go through gate number 5. They'll come back halfway up, and then the finish line.
Oh, there we go. We see Spain just turn directly in front of Spain, but big moment. France have dropped back behind New Zealand. Winds rotated right towards the right-hand side of our screen, and we can see the boats on the right of the screen are sailing nearly straight up the ladder line. Extra distance there, missed the wind shift, the French, and they've lost a place. That could be huge in the race to the final, but of course we should see another race to go, and New Zealand are going to have to do another manoeuvre to get round the gate.
And board.
France have the rights over New Zealand here as they enter this top mark, but New Zealand look like they're going to be clear ahead. Tight cross coming. Has Burling judged it right? Delapierre has the right of way. I think he's maybe round. It's really, whoa, perfect judgment by the Kiwis.
And Canada has all but checked out.
I think I just became the favourite Kiwi.
Oh, Phil Robertson, he is an optimist, that man, isn't he?
He is the gift that keeps on giving.
I've seen an awful lot of black foils signs in the crowd. Not too many Phil Robertson masks, but he's going well at the moment. Defending champion here, of course.
And this summary here is from that previous downwind leg, and we can see how the Kiwis caught up and have moved themselves into third place. So previously downwind, they averaged 68.1 kilometers of average speed, and also sailed the shortest distance. So the Canadians looking pretty safe, but not necessarily the fastest boat on the course.
So Canada at mark number 6, they'll have the straight shot to the finish line. Hopefully they've sorted that marking out so everyone will know. Spain comes in on a funky line there, Stevie, and they're going to have to just peel off. Yeah, they'll make it, and they'll take a turn. So it'll be a battle for second place between Spain and Emirates GBR. And here come the Kiwis.
Spain are slow. Great Britain are going to have a lot more speed against the Spanish. Look at that, nearly 20 kilometers an hour faster. They should be able to defend from here as they build speed, but Canada are going to get it done.
Race number 2 at the ITM New Zealand Sail Grand Prix goes the way of the Canadians with a Kiwi at the wheel.
Tight behind, but Spain are going to get it in second. The black foils are coming fast behind the Brits, but that's going to be second place for Spain, third for Great Britain, and the hometown heroes, well, it's fourth, but they came from last all the way to fourth.
And that is huge news for the Spanish team, as that will put them in first overall at the moment for today.
France, who looked like they were going to be a threat again here in race number 2, they're going to have to settle for a 5th place. Remember, it's cumulative scoring, so France will pick up those points for 5th. They've got a 2nd and a 5th. Think of it like golf in reverse. You want to get more and more points. 10 to the winner, 1 for last place. Of course, Australia unable to sail in this race. Denmark somehow is out there, and Denmark may be getting 8 points because right now the Danes sit in 8th, the USA in 9th.
Yeah, I mean, crucial points. They're going to still struggle to make the final at this event, but season points is crucial. United States, they're off the foils. There's been a few handling errors on board that US boat, struggling these breezier conditions. But we see the Germans, 6th place. That's a good result. Big gust of wind hitting the Swiss, and the Swiss, they were in that race. Just a little bit scrappy, but probably no surprise for a new crew on that one. Nathan Outridge, well, he'll be happy enough. Rockwool Denmark has said, I guess he's just happy to still be afloat.
2, 1, and pause, go CBS, gone.
I was on the board up, but I think it was in the air.
CBS.
Miracle of miracles, the Great Dane gets his boat into the mix, and they pick up another point. So that is huge. They finish at 8th place. The Americans, as Stevie said, had some unforced errors there, and they will finish in 9th place. No 10th place finisher, because that would belong to the Australians, who are done for the day.
Well, there you go. Phil Robertson feeling pretty good on things here. We're getting ready for this 3rd start, and of course it's going to be a fairly massive moment, just 1 minute 54 until the start out there. We've had news come down to us that collision with the Danish, because they caused it, they're going to get themselves an 8-point penalty taken off the event here, so that's more bad news for Nikolai Sehersted, really hurting this event, and I imagine that will mean season points.
So 8 points for the violation of Rule 14, and that is one of the rules where we do not like these high-foiling, very expensive carbon fiber F50 catamarans to come together, and we had multiple collisions in race number 1. So huge race here. Race number 3, we're under a minute 20 to go. Emily, everyone is going to keep their eye on that preferred line, but we've seen multiple strategies play out here in Littleton Harbor. What do you think is going to be the option or the strategy on this 3rd race?
Well, I think the key is having space to accelerate towards the line, but also getting as close to that optimum point as possible. We saw just how well the Canadians did it last time, perfectly on that blue triangle.
Under a minute to go now. Spain will be the last team to enter the start box. No penalty there, and everyone makes their way to the back. Stevie, the same question I got to Emily. We've seen multiple strategies. We've seen people hug this bottom line. We've seen people come from the very top and just scream it towards the line.
I think what was definitely a feature is if you're down towards the bottom, that's been on overall the winning strategy. With these big foils, you can't get the top speeds that you perhaps could do if you had the high-speed board. So they've got to sail extra distance if they're nearer the top of our screen. They would have a faster angle, but they're going to struggle to do that. Germany, aggressive move down the line. Noticeable that New Zealand are further down the line. De La Pierre winding it up out the back. Canada, they wind it up now. 13 seconds to go. It's all about timing. New Zealand have got to watch out for Canada, but Phil Robertson, he's just shooting straight at the line. Germany well positioned, but I think De La Pierre and the Spanish, France and Spain at the bottom of the line. Watch for the line to turn white. Perfect start there. Wow. Incredible timing by Diego Bortin with the pressure on. Spain and France are going to be 1 and 2 at Mark 1. Incredible work.
Side by side as they come to mark number 1. Spain on the inside, France on the outside. Both of them looking for a big performance here in the third and final fleet race.
Oh, and out the back again was New Zealand, Todd, but they've managed to sneak themselves down on the inside. They're directly in line behind Canada at the moment, who are directly in line behind Spain. New Zealand, they're back in the pack, but France, Canada, Spain, New Zealand, this is the race for the final, and it's absolutely on a knife edge right now.
Perfect sailing conditions here in Littleton Harbour. And we've waited a full day to get this kind of action, and it is all on. Spain, France, Canada, USA, who just gets a penalty, and then the Swiss, your top 5.
Whoa, it's a bit loose on that manoeuvre on board the USA. The boat's throwing itself around in the background. They're out of control on board there, struggling to get it down. USA had to give room on the boundary, so they got a penalty there. They're sneaking up round, but out front, France, they choose to head back towards the fans, and it's going to be really tight. New Zealand with the right of way on the right-hand side of our screen. Switzerland are threading the needle. Oh, my word. Nathan Outridge, he's got to keep clear in New Zealand. Oh, my days, that was close. Think he's going to be in trouble there. New Zealand are out the back. France, Canada, Spain.
And this race to the final is really heating up now. As it currently stands, we would see Spain, France and Canada
this is the umpires.
Final race.
Penalty Switzerland, relative New Zealand. Port tack boat not keeping clear.
Stevie, you saw that one coming, so Nathan Outridge will have to give way, and the Kiwis will pick up another position. The Americans stuck in the middle of the course, and they look not to be moving both holes in the water.
Well, yeah, USA, they're just struggling to control the boat at the moment. They're struggling with their manoeuvres out there. New team, of course. Tricky day on these big foils, but yeah, Switzerland, penalty is exolved. They've dropped back behind New Zealand.
And we can see just how close the Kiwis are to making that final. They need to sail through the fleet and gain another position if they want a chance at that final.
That has never been a problem for Peter Burley and the Kiwis, and the fans that have turned out, almost 20,000 of them, would be sorely disappointed if the Kiwis do not make the final. But right now, Canada sitting in second place on points, all even at 25, but they are the defenders of last year's event, and their driver, Phil Robertson, Kiwi by birth.
Well, this is a big moment. France have got a big lead now. It's France's to lose in terms of a place in the final. Spain and Canada, well, they're neck and neck. The black foils have found some space. We've seen all day when they've got space, they're able to really work their way through the fleet. About 100 metres behind the Spanish at the moment. I think they need to overtake the Spanish to hope to make the final. The main protagonists are 1, 2, 3 and 4 in this race, but once again, Kiwis have managed to get themselves in space, managed to get themselves out of phase. Can they manage to get themselves into the final?
All eyes on those top 4 boats, Emily.
And the points are still holding steady, but it does look like the Kiwis are closing that gap. The question is, will they have enough time to overtake one of those top 3 boats?
Big moment coming up here, Todd. Canada are going to have to look to turn, but Spain will have the right of way. If Spain overtake Canada, then that's a problem for Canada. Phil Robertson's got to pull a rabbit from the hat here. He's trying to use the boundary for protection. It's tight. Oh, he's managed to get away, forcing the Spanish away, using the boundary as protection there. Great work by 2-time World Match Race champion Phil Robertson, and it's so tight as we get to the top of the course. 3 legs to go though, plenty of time for the Kiwis to get back in it, but they've got to make it happen soon, and they're getting chased down by the Emirates Great Britain.
So France is safely around. Emirates GBR gives way, and it's going to get awfully crowded on the right side. On the inside, you've got Spain. On the outside, you've got Canada. The Kiwis decide to the other side, and Emirates GBR goes with them.
But Spain are past Canada here. Canada must keep clear of Spain. That's good news for Kiwi fans as it sits at the moment. I think that will knock a point off the Canadians. New Zealand stick with their strategy of taking out of phase, staying away from other boats, trying to sail clean. They're still in 4th, but I think it will be better for them with Canada ahead, Spain ahead of Canada, but this one's going to the absolute wire as we see Canada and Spain in a match race down the boundary.
So the points do improve for New Zealand as they're now tied at 24, but they lose that tiebreak. They do have to get ahead of Canada in order to make it through to the final there.
Copy that. Well, it's really tight. And at the moment, 50 metres in it. New Zealand come away from that shoreline. Canada crossing clear ahead, but there's generally speaking been a nice little gain to the bottom right-hand side of our screen. Can the Kiwis find the magic touch to get back through? Spain look like they're going to struggle to make it past the boundary without some more manoeuvres, but France, Delapierre, clinical right now, sailing away on that French boat.
So Emily, to check your math, if New Zealand gets past Canada, so they finish in third, Canada finishes fourth, it'll be New Zealand going through.
Yes, exactly.
Spain and France looking very good right now. They make the turn down at the bottom of the course. Chatter on board the French squad. Look how fast Spain is coming in.
Oh, and Spain shut the door on the Canadians there. They block them. They want to take the same turning to try and limit the opportunities of the Canadians getting past. New Zealand will, I imagine, turn right. They're going to try and keep themselves sailing their own path. There's a few mistakes on that Canadian boat. Been a bit of whitewater around it, but still a 50-metre lead as the Germans are back in the race. New Zealand, big upwind leg. All the fans on the shore surely going to be cheering on that New Zealand boat. Can Burling, Tuke and Co. make it happen? Big last upwind leg for the Kiwis.
As they pass the Adrenaline Lounge, it is the Black Foils. They are trying to hunt down the Canadians, the winners of last year's event. And look at the fans on their feet.
Oh, look at the manoeuvre, Todd. Absolutely perfect. That boat is locked in. It's on rails. But the Canadians still ahead at the moment. Burling there, nice work, he says. He's happy with that. They're coming back. They're chasing hard. But Spain are doing a great job against the Canadians on the boundary. Are they going fast enough? Top of screen, New Zealand, here they come. 54 kilometres an hour. They're within 20 metres of the Canadians. Canada has the right of way, but further up the course, when they come back together in about 30, 40 seconds time, it'll be New Zealand with the right of way. So this next split that we watch here is going to be crucial. Here come the Black Foils.
And they do dip right behind the Canadians. Let's see what Phil Robertson does. He's got to sense what's happening here. They are currently almost dead even with the Kiwis.
But look at the speed on the top of the Canadians, about 57 kilometers an hour there compared to 49 for the Canadians. Obviously the maneuver slows you down, and as I said before, with these big foils, it takes so much longer to accelerate out of these maneuvers.
How about the Germans, Emily? Could they affect where the Kiwis end up? Because they are coming on strong with Eric Heil. They have closed the gap.
They're only going to affect it if they overtake the Kiwis.
Well, right of way now with the Kiwis, and look at our ladder lines here. It shows that the Kiwis are back ahead of the Spanish, potentially ahead of the Canadians as well. Burling and Tuke, they've got this thing on fire at the moment. France are gone. Race win should be on the cards as long as there's no more mistakes for the French. New Zealand, they have the right of way. Canada must dip behind, but crucially, Spain have dropped back to 5th. One more manoeuvre is going to be required for New Zealand, one more manoeuvre for Canada before the top gate, and it will be Canada with the right of way as they come into this top gate.
And as you can see there, bottom left, those are the points with these current changes. This would put New Zealand through to that final and Spain on the outside. Still plenty to play for though as they get to this top gate.
Well, the Spanish really bailing out the Canadians as they have dropped back to 4th, unable to hold on to that second position. Tight crossing there, the Kiwis and the Canadians. They get a good look at each other. It is now 2nd and 3rd, Canada and New Zealand. New Zealand no longer needs to get past Canada to get in the final as Spain has dropped back to 4th.
Oh, poor manoeuvre there by the Spanish, and that's metres and metres of distance they've managed to lose in that manoeuvre. The crucial thing here is Canada, France and New Zealand to stay ahead of Spain, and then it'll be those 3 boats. So it's not too important where they finish as long as they're ahead of Spain, but New Zealand, they're just on a charge. But no, look at this. It's a 500-metre lead for France.
And with the Spanish out into 4th, that's huge news for the Kiwis because that would put them on 26 points overall and ahead of France on the overall leaderboard as well.
So here comes France. They make the turn for home, and that will give us 3 races, 3 different winners. Emily's points crunchy. Look at New Zealand. They were in 4th, and now they look to be in 1st if the results stay the way they are right now. New Zealand, France, and Canada would go on to the final, but let's give credit where credit is due. France will get the win in race number 3.
Clinical, Todd. Absolutely clinical by De La Pierre, Pepinay and co. They've absolutely nailed that. Jason Saunders on flight control, of course. He's a Kiwi, so he'll be looking forward to a final performance here. But the Black Foils, I mean, Peter Burling, it's not like he's been able to start a lawnmower at this event so far. He's been nearly at the back of the pack at Mark 1 so far. But the speed, the tactical ability, the space finding, they've got themselves there, and they're going to have one more chance for one more start here in New Zealand. And if he can get off the start, that Black Foils boat's fast.
Second place goes to New Zealand in race 3. Canada will hold on for third.
And with that, that secures our top 3 there. The Kiwis, French and Canadians will be the boats that go through to this final race.
How about Spain? They were sitting in first place overall after the first 2 races. They dropped to 4th, which isn't a terrible finish, Stevie and Emily, but that takes them out of the final.
I just think pressure, continuous pressure mounts up, and the Kiwis, okay, they didn't start very well, that's for sure, but they've sailed the boat so well. They're just not making mistakes, and they're fast the whole way through the race. And that pressure, I think, just told on Bottine. He just could feel them coming. He knew there was no room for error, and they made a slight error, unfortunately.
So race 1 goes to the Kiwis, race 2 goes to Canada, race 3 goes to France. Numbers have been crunched, and now the final is set, and it will be Quentin de la Pierre, Peter Burling, and Phil Robertson battling it out in front of a massive crowd here in Littleton Harbour. So now let's look at the French, and they are loaded.
Well, there you go. Look at Jason Saunders there on the French team. Has married together with Manon, so has a French child, but he's a Kiwi, so he's going to be looking for a good performance out there. And I think the flight controllers have got a big role to play out there today, and how hard you drive the boat, how high are you willing to fly the boats. And we said those big foils have got a lot on. Same Andy Maloney on board the Kiwi boat there. But I think it's been Burling and Mackay that have found their way through the fleet really well with that space, but can they start the boat this time?
And with under a minute 8 to go before the start of the race, Canada will be the 3rd team that will profile Phil Robertson, of course, Kiwi by birth, the winner of this event last year, Stevie. He's got some good people around him, including no other than Paul Campbell-James.
Yeah, Paul CJ's been a nice addition to the team, but again, Billy Gooderham, I can't help but look at him. Big Gooderham's got to fly the boat aggressively, and what I love there in Phil's interview, he just said what he wants to do. We can judge him on his plan. The plan, he said, was to win the pin end of the line. What does he mean by that? He means the downwind end, the end that's going to be closest to the bottom of our TV screen. That's because from the top of the line, they're struggling to get full pace, but Burling wants it too. He tries to turn inside the Canadians. Robertson defends, cuts down across the Kiwis. Now, here we go. What's the next play? Robertson's well positioned, but New Zealand will have a run at him, and De La Pierre looks like he's going to go on his own, and he's going to wind it up on that French boat now. New Zealand, one more turn down. They attack the Canadians again. Does Robertson defend, or does he open things up? It's 9 seconds to go. Canada must keep clear of New Zealand. Burling's timed this well. France are coming at pace. How's your timing? Peter Burling at the bottom end of the line. Perfect from the Kiwis there on the inside. They have control. They should lead from here at Mark 1, but there's going to be some tight rules incidents. France must keep clear of Canada. Canada must keep clear of New Zealand, but the Canadians are out the back.
The French are the fastest boat on the course right now, over 80 kilometres an hour of speed. The Kiwis also very quick and have the inside.
At mark number 1, it is the Kiwis. The black foils are up and foiling with pace. Canada sits on the inside, France on the outside. Stevie, this is a big moment, leg 2 of 7.
Well, Robertson called the best place to start, but he just couldn't quite execute it. Burling's timing was absolutely spot on. He attacked him with 10 seconds to go. There was no defence left. Now, big decision at the bottom here. Do you save a manoeuvre on this leg with a left turn, or we've seen the Kiwis make a gain by heading back towards the crowd? It'll be interesting what Burling and Took choose to do. This is the first time they've actually had a choice. Looks like they're going to keep it simple with a left turn. Canada will follow. I anticipate France is surely going to look to split the course. No, they're going to stay with them. The whole fleet are staying tight, and if you're on board that New Zealand boat, you are over the moon to see that.
New Zealand, the winners of race number 1. Canada won race number 2. And France won race number 3. So all the winners are out there today, and Canada's the first to turn away.
Well, yeah, they're just as soon as you're sailing behind someone, Todd, you're in disturbed wind. You've effectively got less potential horsepower. Someone's blocking the wind in front of you there, and that's why Canada have chosen to get out, so they can sail their own race, sail with their own speed. But it was a bit of a loss early on the leg for the Canadians, and France, they're going to be struggling to overtake the New Zealand boat by just following at the minute.
We are going to offer.
At the boundary, it is the Kiwis, the black foils, they make the turn. Content Delapierre and the French, they sit in second on the course as it stands right now. Did Phil Robertson make the right call to split away early?
We'll find out in a minute. It doesn't look like a great call at the moment. It looks like the wind's rotated right. He's got a big left shift at the top. He's really turned away from those lines, but he's struggling. Look how slow they are. The wind's got light on that left-hand side, and that's what Lisa told us. There's more wind towards the bottom of our screen. Should be good news for France and New Zealand, and it certainly looks it at the minute. Canada off the foils.
And so far we are seeing the Kiwis sailing beautifully. Out of the manoeuvres, they are accelerating so much quicker than the French, and that's saying something for the boat that previously was the masterclass.
Well, yeah, but the New Zealand boat spent most of the day sailing in disturbed wind. We've not really seen what they can do, and right now, look at that. That was a massive loss, that extra manoeuvre. The wind got light on Canada, and they now need a mistake from those two lead boats. They're just at the minute that both teams, New Zealand and France, are stretching as wide as they can on the course. They're sailing right from boundary to boundary. That strategically is to save manoeuvres. Every time you turn the boat like this, you lose speed, you lose distance. So if you can minimise manoeuvres, you get yourself sailing around the course pretty quick.
But look at the speed of Canada right now. It's increasing. Now at 58 kilometers an hour, where the Kiwis are going 43, the French drop now to 39.
Yeah, they're just sailing a slightly faster, wider angle at the moment, Todd. New Zealand is desperately trying to make it up to this next turning mark without another manoeuvre. That's the main priority for the Kiwis at the moment. France chasing in, but New Zealand, if they can get round here, I imagine France will follow them, and they'll feel very much in a controlling position on New Zealand. It's all about keeping it tidy.
And now it's the Kiwis on to leg 4 of 7 here in the event final of the ITM New Zealand Sail Grand Prix, trying to win their home event. France does in fact follow the Kiwis, and now it is Canada that has lost distance despite the speed, and the speed picks up for the Kiwis. Look at this, approaching 70 kilometers an hour.
The French currently with the fastest average speed around the course, slightly closing that gap with the Kiwis, but will it be enough?
Well, that's just classic of the French. They like to sail the boat fast, but normally the consequence of sailing the boat fast is you're sailing a little bit more distance. It's always a little way up. Do you sail less distance or do you sail faster? And New Zealand at the moment, what I like about the French right here is the Kiwis continually are making the right moves. So don't do the wrong move and give them the race easily. At the minute the French are staying there, once we're halfway up the next upwind leg, Delapierre's going to have to try something. He can't continue to follow the Kiwis, but at the moment it's not a terrible strategy, because you just keep the pressure on the Kiwis and you see if they're going to crack under that pressure.
That's certainly something that does not happen very often, Peter Burling cracking under pressure. But to your point, Stevie, this really is the first race that they've had this all by themselves out in front, no one to have to deal with. As Lisa talked to Peter Burling, having that extra space. He wasn't really confident about their starts, but today it seemed to work, and here they are at gate number 4.
Yeah, here go the French. Now he's making his move. Delapierre chooses to do the extra manoeuvre down here, splits away. Burling turns right back towards the fan, and this is it. This is Delapierre's move. He's splitting the course. He's hoping for extra, but look at that. They're a bit high. They're a bit loose on that rounding. It was a tricky rounding, but they're messy. They're messy on the French boat there. They've got slow. Should be good news for the Kiwis, but when they next come back together, whoever is ahead, I think, will look to take the win here, because they're going to have a big advantage.
Currently we have slightly more pressure on that offshore side, as we've seen before with the French, but not a lot.
No, and it looks like a gain to me to New Zealand, to be perfectly honest right now. Looks like potentially a 100-metre move. I think the French had to do that. I've got no problem with that from Delapierre. He needed to try something, but they just didn't execute it well. It was a messy rounding at the bottom. Not the easiest thing to do, the jibe and then turn the boat up. 2 manoeuvres in a row, but they just didn't do it smoothly. 50 metres is now 120 metres. This is the New Zealand black foils. This is their chance to bring it home in front of the fans.
Now, if they take the win here, it's not just the event that they are going to win. They are going to take the lead on the overall season leaderboard.
And a very tidy maneuver there by the black foils. The Kiwis and their sponsors looks like they are bringing it home. The lead now has shrunk down to 100, so the French have picked up about 50 meters, but again, they are running out of real estate as the Kiwis will get through this next gate. Then they'll head back up the course. Phil Robertson getting back into play, but he has run out of time as well. He's got a massive deficit to second and first.
Yeah, Burling did that extra maneuver there to ensure that he controls the final decision into the gate, so he was happy to sacrifice a few meters to give himself tactical control here. He's going to turn the boat now one last time before this top gate, right on top of the French, and then it should now be one turn downwind and they'll be lined up for the final mark. So yeah, lost a bit of distance to gain a lot of control there. Classic safe match racing move from Burling on the French, and it's advantage New Zealand. De La Pierre and the French crew need a Kiwi mistake to have any hope of getting the win here now.
How are we making it? Okay, come down. France round right turn now.
So France follows New Zealand, hoping that Peter Burling and his team possibly make a mistake, have a sloppy maneuver, and they can capitalize. But right now it is over 200 meters that the Kiwis have the lead. They have waited a long time for this one, and they are on their way to claiming the title here in Christchurch.
Last maneuver here, Todd. Can they nail it? The boat's smooth. Look how level that platform stays. Both hulls similar distance above the water, silky smooth. They then tip the boat slightly on top. There's a lot of water over them, avoiding that mark. Oh, that was a little bit scrappy by the Kiwis. Oh, but the French are scrappy in the background as well. They're up in the air, maybe fatigue. It's been a long day out here on the water, but right now the black foils are locked back in. They've got the heel locked back in. The French are charging, but it's going to be too little too late on board this French boat. Going to be second for France as the black, hear the crowd on the shore. That sounds like half of New Zealand standing up to applaud them.
And they bring it straight in towards the Adrenaline Lounge here in Littleton Harbor. All of Christchurch on their feet. Say hello to your winners. It's the Black Foils with the win.
Nothing the Kiwis like more than a hometown win, and France bring it home in second. Quentin de La Pierre, well, he's a pragmatic guy. For the season, massive, massive moment for the French. That could put them back into the top three, back into that dream of making the grand final in San Francisco later in season 4. But have a look at that for the New Zealand crew. Burling, he's pumped. The fans are pumped. What a day's racing.